So what are ND filters? ND filters in the most simple form are these. So ND filters are essentially sunglasses, but for your camera. But why do you need sunglasses for your camera? So the thing is, if you're shooting outside and there's tons of sunlight, what's going to happen is you have fewer possibilities in terms of the camera settings that you're going to use. With tons of light, you basically need to close the aperture down. So that means having a higher f-stop number. And with that, basically everything is in focus. So something that's very cinematic a lot of times is that blurry background, the blurry foreground, and just the subject or the main thing in the video is what's going to be in focus. So that's where ND filters come in. You can add an ND filter to darken the image and open the aperture to get the proper exposure. Then you can have the blurry background or bokeh that you might be looking for. So there's essentially two types of ND filter. There are fixed ND filters, so it has a particular amount that's going to darken the image per filter. So you need to kind of swap out filters to get the right look you're looking for. And there are variable ND filters, which is what I purchased. So with variable ND filters, you have a range of ND filters essentially. So you basically have two filters that you twist like this, and it's going to darken or lighten the image. So these ones go from 2 to 5 stops and then from 6 to 9 stops. There are a ton of options out there for this. These are the cheaper of the expensive options. So these cost around $110 a piece. So there's two, so $220. Then there's like the Peter McKinnon Polar Pros that I think $250 or $260 a piece. There are also other options that are $20 to $50 a piece. I'll put some links down below if you're interested in seeing what options are out there. So with that said, guess what time it is? We're gonna open this up, go outside, and see how these work. All right. I've actually never used ND filters before, but I've been doing some more shooting outside if you've been watching some of the latest videos, and just realizing how much loss of flexibility and not being able to record how I want to. I'm not one for unboxing videos, so this is gonna be super cool, like maybe some other channels. Okay, so here is one. Here is filter one. And then here is the second. Let's get this out of here. But yeah, so here's essentially what we have. So we have these two ND filters with these cases. Then you have a magnetic lens cap. Basically, whichever one you're using on the camera, you would be using this. So now I want to just show you really quickly what happens to the depth of field when you change the aperture. So right now, if we put this on screen, so we have f2.8, and I think the ISO is around 3 something. But so if we were to all of a sudden change the ISO to say 3200, and then if I start to increase this something like that maybe. Okay, so now we're at f8. So how much clear is this in focus now with a much higher f-stop? Is there quite a bit of difference? Is that almost readable now where before it was fairly blurry? So that's what's happening when you're outside and you may have an f-stop of 10, 20 or something really, really high. Everything is just in focus. So that's what we're going to play around with the ND filters and see how that changes. Okay, so I'm outside right now. You can tell it is a very sunny day and I am in direct sunlight. So I have one of the ND filters on, the darker of the two, and it's set to 8 stops. So that allows me to bring the f-stop down to 2.8 and set the ISO to, I think it's 500 or 600 right now. So by doing that, I should be in focus. But what about the sign behind me? Or as you look down this dirt road behind me, do you see some blur in the background? So now we're gonna see what it looks like when we take the ND filter off. Okay, so here we are outside right now. You can tell it's a really sunny day outside. There's no ND filter on. The aperture is set to f14 and the ISO at 100. So I can't go any lower with the ISO. And right now with f14, you probably see this in focus, and you can see quite a ways down this dirt road. Okay, so here I am shooting in a little bit more shade right now, so I could change some of the settings and still expose this properly. So I have the aperture still set to 2.8, the ND filter is now 6 stops instead of 8 stops, and the ISO is 400 instead of 800 where it was just a second ago. So you have a bunch of flexibility in terms of the ISO you want, the aperture you want when you're using a variable ND filter. So now this is the 2 to 5 stop ND filter. I have it set to 3 stops. To expose this with an aperture of 2.8, I have the ISO all the way down at 100. So how's the background look in this shot? Is the sign blurry? What about the trail even further back? Now let's see what it looks like with no ND filter. Okay, Okay, so how does this look? We are with no ND filter on right now. With this amount of light, basically I needed to turn the ISO all the way down to 100, as low as it goes, and the f-stop is at 9.0. So how does the background look right now? Can you see and read the sign? And what about the trail even further back? Is that all in focus? Okay, so do you think ND filters are something that could allow you to record better videos outside? Again, if you want more information of the options available, check out the links in the description below. If you're looking to record better videos for YouTube, definitely check out our playlist right here. There's tons of tips that allow you to grow on YouTube in 2021. Hope to see you in those and future videos. Ciao.